Hello and welcome to Atlantic Video View. Hello and welcome to our route knowledge training film here on the East Lancashire Railway. We're going to take you for a cab ride in our 101 DMU between Bury and Rawtenstall, Bury and Haywood. And along the way we're going to point out some of the major geographical locations so that when you're relaying your position to either the RO, another member of the working staff, or to the emergency services, you can give them an accurate description of your location. Sit back and enjoy our views of the East Lancashire Railway. Our journey begins from platform 2 in Bury Bolton Street and we're heading northbound for Ramsbottom and Rawtenstall. Access at Bury Bolton Street is fairly obvious and quite easy, although for emergency vehicles to get across to platforms 2 and 3 can be quite difficult. Our first tunnel on leaving Bury is that of Bury North Tunnel. It was this structure that used to shelter our carriages and locomotives when we first took over the station area. On leaving the tunnel you can see Castlecroft Yard on the left hand side. Getting through Castlecroft Yard for any emergency services can be difficult, as there's normally quite a lot of stock stored here. The section of track fenced off to the left is normally known as quarter-mile sidings. Going up the line we will mark all the important observations with a red banner like this. Observe Somerset section signal, which will no longer have this start of staff section board on it. On our left we come to the end of what's known as the quarter mile, our original running line. And the signal in front of us on the right hand side has a SPAD indicator, which in our inset here is seen red flashing. If you observe this, stop immediately. On the left is the site of the old junction to Holcombe Brook, and our first access is here on the left. This would be on the road past Castlecroft to Peel Mill and into this industrial estate. Here is a double gate. Access with either an ambulance or a fire engine is possible on the left hand side of our view here towards the Park Road Bridge. Over this passes the vehicles to the transfer station on the left hand side, which is the old drum or chemical works. On the right hand side of our picture is the old corporation yard, and where we can see the overgrowth there is an incline, and in fact the engines used to travel in the opposite direction up the incline and into this yard. The area we're passing through now is generally known as Fern Hill. The name Little Burrs Cutting actually comes from the many photographers who stand here in the late evening and watch the trains pass northwards. And this is the first point where we cross our river in the valley here, which is of course the River Irwell. It's worth noting at this point that midway between the two viaducts is a crossing. This crossing of railway sleepers is for the permanent way people. Over the Irwell River Bridge we come to Burrs Country Park Station, our newest station, which draws plenty of people from the caravan park there. Emergency access is possible via the platform. This platform will only take 5.5 carriages, so be aware of that. Halfway through the cutting, brick stanchions can be seen on either side of the railway line. This is where access was required from one side of the railway to the other by the farmer. Very rarely used around the corner here are two farm crossings, the first of which has become almost disused. The second one is still used, and it's well worth keeping an eye open just in case the farmer is out and about. We'll see that vehicular access is possible through the Springside farm, and anything coming this way would have come up on the road which goes to Ramsbottom, but is on the east side of the line. We'll see this later on our aerial views. On the left side of the line is the old brickworks. On the right hand side of the line is an old ash tip and actually an old reservoir which was used to supply the brickworks with. Would normally cross over to the right because Somerset had where the vehicular industry is possible, which was a mill. The vehicles, the area was served by sidings. Here we've just passed by Olive Line, probably, and there was sidings right hand side farm as we go into the station. Access is possibly easier now than it has been for quite some time because of the new caravan park crossing there. The main road passes beneath the railway here just before Somerset Station, and to access the station you have to climb a fair steep set of steps. It's much easier to go down Miller Street, which is a rough road, paralleling the platforms to a gate where there is vehicular access if you need to. We'll see this as we leave the station. Access to the station by wheelchair has been made possible after its extension, and we can see the sloping footpath down to Miller Street on the right hand side here. If vehicular access was necessary for emergency services, it's possible to the right hand side here. And again you can see the railway sleepers that have been laid in the middle of the line so that you can cross over to the left hand side to go southwards, but you would stay on the right hand side to head towards the Hoyles goods shed. And of course the Brooks Bottom Viaduct. Views of this spectacular viaduct sadly diminish because of the trees on the left, but on the right hand side you get a really good view of the old mill and the river. Round the corner we're heading into Brooks Bottom Tunnel. This tunnel is probably one of the longest tunnels on a preserved railway line in the United Kingdom, and passes beneath a rather large housing estate above the ground, which we will see later. Through this short cutting and we come to Nuttall Tunnel. Nuttall Tunnel is rather formal on its north side, and if you look behind you, besides seeing the rather nice castellate effect, you can also see the original directors of the East Lancashire Railway cut in stone. Observe the fixed distance signal on our left. Ramsbottom's history is somewhat checkered because it did actually have a cyanide works off to the right hand side here, now a wooded area. Obviously the mill itself was served by water from the River Irwell. As well as observing this signal northbound, the SPAD indicator for southbound trains is on the back of it, so the location of this signal is quite significant. Once again, access to the line is possible from the left hand side this time, which comes parallel with the river and through a gate there. This is the 5th crossing of the River Irwell, and obviously is just short of us getting into Ramsbottom Station itself. The preset shunting signals show which platform you're going into. The top one means left, the bottom one means right. Access for vehicles to Ramsbottom Station is quite easy, because it's possible from the car park on the left hand side here, and is also possible from the right hand side down the road that takes you to Ramsbottom Football and Cricket Club. The obvious point of access is via the level crossing gates here. If you're in the unfortunate situation that you have to guide the emergency services to a location on the railway line, use your rule book. In the back you will find a series of grid references prefixed SD that will guide them to the location that they need to come to. Don't forget to use them. Our aerial views are going to give us a good idea of how the railway fits into the countryside, and indeed what it might look like on a map. Bury town centre and Bury station. Let's head northwards. Just before that east-west trending road there, you can actually pick out Castlecroft. North of the road is the quarter-mile sidings and the 2 signals that we observed going round the corner. On the corner itself was the main entrance gate in the industrial estate, and you can pick out the Park Road Bridge which heads over to the old chemical works. To the right of the railway here you can pick out the old corporation depot, and as we head on we can see the river comes closer to the railway in the section known as Fern Hill. Leaving the built-up area itself, we head into Little Burrs Cutting and our first crossing of the River Irwell, to the left of which you can pick out the water features of Burrs Country Park. The sandy area here is that of the caravan park where the Brown Cow pub is, and access to Burrs here is via a footpath. We head into Touch Hill Cutting, and as we come out of the cutting we can see the silvery features of the Springside farm. Don't forget the 2 occupational crossings just before the farm, and you can pick out the roads that comes in from the right hand side before we head into those trees. The trees represent the area of olive sidings which used to be the brickworks, and the reservoir on the right was the water supply for the works. We round the corner and it's here where Chest Wheel Bridge is, because in fact the river is quite close. Through this canopy of trees, and we can just make out the area of Somerset Station. The Miller Street, once the camera turns round, can be seen paralleling the railway here, and access is possible from the north side by wheelchair. The Hoyles Goodshed, and the railway passes round and over the Brooksbottom Viaduct and into the Brooksbottom Tunnel, over which this new housing estate exists. The small gap and we head into Nuttall Tunnel, and once out of Nuttall Tunnel we're heading into the industrial precincts of Ramsbottom. You can just pick out the river bridge there just before the blue building, which is the carpet factory, and behind that the orange vehicles, which are those of the TNT. See to the right also the cricket and football pitches before we come in to Ramsbottom Station, and in the platform I think you can pick out there the EMU. On departure from Ramsbottom, check the platform starter signal and keep a very good eye open to make sure that nobody jumps on or off the train. The access through the ticket office makes it quite easy to run across the platform and just try to get in. The level crossing is now protected by traffic lights, which will make the opening and closing of the gates a lot safer, and if we are indeed still picking a token up from the signal box, it's worth making sure that the driver actually gets it. Once onto the single line part of the track, observe the section signal for Rawtenstall or observe the shunting signal if you're going into the sidings on the right hand side. These sidings are the site of the old exchange sidings, and they were very big indeed back in the day. They currently form the East Lancashire Railway run-round loop, and it's possible to get a locomotive and 6 carriages in here to facilitate the run-round. As we pass round the corner, there is the Paperworks level crossing. This is operational through the week and on Saturdays, and leaves access to the railway for traffic. In fact, if you pass over the level crossing from left to right and go a little bit further down the road, you will find that there is another gate which will bring you back into the exchange sidings. This would make very good access if you needed to get an ambulance or the fire brigade down there. The treatment plant is on the right hand side of the track. A very significant plant which actually treats the cellulose from the paperworks and then enables it to be spread on fields for fertilisation. The fire station is noteworthy to the left. As we come around the corner here, we'll start to approach the old station of Stubbins and Stubbins Junction. The line off to the left at Stubbins Junction used to go onward to Accrington. Our line that we take now to Rawtenstall headed on to Bacup. The old platform can be seen on the right hand side here. As we pass round the corner, the River Irwell can be seen close to the railway line on the right hand side, and on the other side of the Irwell are the Chatterton Mills. Progressing along the line, some of the workers' cottages can be seen on the left hand side before we pass over the Strongstry Village Road. This is unadopted, but some of it is tarmac. Getting through there can be quite bumpy. All the way along this section of line, the line to Accrington on our left is rising, and if you look left at this crossing of the River Irwell, you will see how much height that line has gained. On our right hand side is the sculpture trail, which comes all the way along the river and the railway from Ramsbottom. And as we go round the corner here, there is the sculpture of the remnant kings. These were made from a water wheel. A look to the left hand side at the footpath here will give you a really impressive view of the Lum Viaduct, and in fact the Accrington line starts to disappear away from us off to the left. We come along the curve here and we are now approaching Irwell Vale Station. This is a newly built station which was built by Lancashire County Council for the East Lancashire Railway. Irwell Vale itself used to be a very busy little village with as many as 3 mills here at one time, and could actually boast its own co-op and post office.
We're going then.
On departure from Irwell Vale, it's important that you observe for any traffic at the level crossing. Quite often these gates can be left open. The sign on the fence there states that pedestrians should use the subway crossing, which is just on the other side of the bungalow here. It's at this point we're about to cross the River Irwell once again. The Irwell Vale sewage works to our left were actually once bombed by a Zeppelin during World War I. And our next river bridge was in fact the site of the collapse during 2002. This due to excessive rainfall in June. We're now approaching the station of Ewood Bridge and Edenfield. This used to be the place where a lot of troops used to get off and march over to the shooting grounds on top of the hills to the left. In fact, cannon and rifle fire can quite often be heard even now. The original ELR wooden goodshed is to the left, and no, this isn't a motorway, in fact it's the A56 bypass. There is no direct vehicular access from the A56. Once underneath the bypass we enter a section known as Horncliffe. This was in fact the receiving area of a narrow gauge railway on the right hand side which came from the quarries in the hills. It's reported that the stone from here was used to build Nelson's Column in Trafalgar Square. Worth looking out of the window here because round the corner you can actually get a glimpse of the signals at Townsend Fold. It's also worth looking out for the Duckworth Hall level crossing. The access along the level crossing is mainly by foot, and I can quite honestly say I've never seen a vehicle down here, although it would be possible to get one over. The area to the left of the railway line here used to be finishing mills, but a steel stockholder has taken over, and we'll see this later in our aerial views of the line. Worth popping your head out here to observe the signals protecting the crossing. We are in fact at Townsend Fold. With a large drain passing beneath the railway here, this section of track can flood. With the new housing estate on the right hand side of the line, if you look forward and a little to the left, you can see the buildings of the Hardman's Mill, a finely preserved cotton mill here in Rawtenstall. The footbridge passing over the line here is just that, it's foot access only. New Hall hay cutting here gives a good example of the local geology as we approach the signalman who will be on foot here at Rawtenstall West. And we once again pass over the River Irwell. On approach to Rawtenstall Station, the area to the right hand side of the line used to be the coal concentration yards, and it was this that left the line open and in situ so that we could take it over. Here to the right hand side is gate access where vehicles could actually get at the railway. Once you get past the quick save building, you can see a rather large goods shed, which gives you some idea of the amount of produce that actually used to come out of the valley here and head down the line for Manchester and beyond. Arriving at the north end of the line here in Rawtenstall Station, the platforms are roughly in the location of the old BR platforms, but the building that you see there is a complete new build. Let's get in our helicopter and return to Ramsbottom and head northwards up the line. Ramsbottom Station immediately below us and the village itself. We pass over the main Bridge Street and the line heads northwards, past the old exchange sidings and over the level crossing that feeds into the treatment tanks here for the paperworks. Round the corner, the paperworks are seen on the left hand side, and it's this point that we cross over the road at the site of the old Stubbins station. Chatterton Mills can be seen on the right and Voith Mills on the left. The junction at Stubbins was almost completely obscured, but the Voith mill there gives you some idea of the route that it goes along. Both lines paralleling one another at this stage, with the river on the right hand side, both being tree lined. Passing the mill houses of Strongstree on the Alderbottom Viaduct, we can see the stalwarts of our line crew. They are maintaining the line and keeping us on the straight and narrow. Thank you very much, guys. Looking directly down on the river here, you can actually pick out the current operating railway line and that of the Nature Trail just above it. Passing around the corner here, our previous north-south wanderings tend to be north-northeastern. Here the Lum Viaduct can be picked out and the Accrington line starts to head away from us as the little village of Irwell Vale appears. Obviously powered by the River Irwell, the area used to have 3 mills. Once past Irwell Vale Station and that tricky level crossing, we can see the sewage works which were bombed in World War I and the 2 bridges over the River Irwell, the second of which was the one that had collapsed. The B6527 is then seen crossing over the railway line, and just above that we can see the main A56, which you must say does look a little bit like a motorway. Getting into the Horncliffe area, the River Irwell comes very close once again to the railway here. And just above that we can see the site of the old finishing mills and the steel stockholders. Access here is from the right hand side, passing down from the main road to Rawtenstall and onto the signal box there at Townsend Fold. Once round the corner through the Newhall Hay cutting, the first view is of the Hardman's Mill. Spectacular to say the least. And once over that level crossing at Rawtenstall West, we're then in to Rawtenstall Station, the end of the line indeed. Returning to Bury Bolton Street, let's take our diesel multiple unit up to Haywood. This time we're departing from platform 3, and at this south end of Bury Bolton Street here there is gate access from the station car park close towards the bay platform there.
Righto, Dave.
And as we approach our first bridge, or the Jubilee Way Road Bridge as it's known, we can look back and see this access from a better angle. Underneath the Jubilee Way Road, and the Haywood branch obviously goes off to the left here. Changing vehicles so we can see the curve a lot better, Class 47 passes by the Bury South signal box. Here you will probably pick up the token. Starting the incline over what's known as the ski jump, we pass under the first road bridge, and that is the Manchester Road Bridge. And once through it we see our next road bridge over the railway, which is the Knowsley Street Road Bridge. In fact, the site of Knowsley Street Station used to be just to the left hand side here. The reason for our ski jump is to pass over the Metrolink Bridge, which passes under our railway. On the left hand side of the railway line here is an area known as Pyramid Park. This used to be the sidings and the area of storage during the LMS and Lancashire and Yorkshire days. A new road has been constructed down this side, and access would be available if you can just cut through the fence which is alongside the railway here. The entrance is just before the Market Street Bridge, which is where we begin to level out before beginning our attack on the Broadfield Bank. The area to the left of the railway here is locally known as Legoland. The next main overbridge is that of Haywood Street. And here we hit the straight line which can be seen passing beneath Alfred Street Road Bridge. On the right of our picture here used to be some points which took the railway lines onto the LMY sidings. Access to the railway is possible just underneath the right of the Alfred Street road bridge here, and as we take a look up you'll be able to see the gate and the rough track which comes down to the railway line. Coming back to our route towards Haywood, we start the steep incline of the Broadfield Bank and we pass over the 7 Arch Bridge which is over the River Roch. This costs the railway in excess of £500,000 to redeck so that we could rejoin our mainline route at Castleton. Just around the corner from here we have of course the M66 road bridge, the M66 passing beneath the railway. Before the motorway was built, a junction off to the left hand side of the railway line led to the Heap Bridge paperworks. On the right hand side of the line here there is access from a farm gate which is off the Spout Bank Farm Road, although access to this road is not easy from the main road itself as gates may be locked. As we head up the main incline here, on the right hand side of the line is a huge domestic landfill site, run originally by a company known as Terry Adams. Some of the monies from the disposal on this site actually went towards us being able to open the line to Haywood. The next road to pass over the railway is that of Moss Hall Road. There is no access from the road to the railway. For some considerable section along the line here, the best way to describe where you are is by the mileposts which appear on the right hand side of the line. As we approach the Pilsworth Road Bridge, access is available from the road in the industrial estate on the right hand side of the line. The Pilsworth Road Bridge itself was rebuilt to allow the very high articulated trucks access through. Once we're just over the bridge here, on either side of the line you can see the old Broadfield Station platforms. The next point along the line is that of the Pothall Bridge, which allows access to the school on the right hand side of the line. And just around the corner there is gated vehicular access from Railway Terrace. When you see our next two bridges you know you're getting close to Haywood. The first one is referred to as the Schofield Street Bridge and the second one is referred to as the Manchester Road Bridge, although on the left hand side of the road it's actually Manchester Street. And here we meet the run round points from the new Haywood Station. The old Haywood Station was situated on either side of the line here, and the inlet to the left there shows where the old platform used to be. But our new platforms needed to be straighter and longer, and so we had to build a new ELR Haywood Station just round the corner here towards Green Lane, although access is possible from the Manchester Road. As we round into the platforms here, notice the stop board at the end of the platform. And obviously the level crossing gates, which mostly denote the end of the line for our passengers. A short distance up the line from the Green Lane level crossing, we'll see where the actual end of the line is at Hotwood. As our diesel multiple unit crosses over this non-barriered level crossing, it's important to wait for the white flashing light before you pass over. Once over on the other side of the level crossing, there's a short distance and we come to the Hopwood crossing and ground frame. The first set of points, the key for operating these will come from the East Lancashire Railway, and the second set of points, the key to operate them, would come from Network Rail at Castleton. From the easternmost extent of our line, let's head to the southernmost extent, and down past the Bury South signal box we can see the junction which goes to the Buckley Wells carriage sheds, here on the right. The stop board here asks trains leaving the carriage sidings to stop and phone the signalman. Passing down the line here you will pass underneath the wooden footpath structure which is known as Bellevue Street and allows access to the schools on the other side of the railway, and our line is accessed here through the Barron Street crossing. Travelling in the down direction from the sheds is a stop sign where you must stop and phone the signalman. Once through to the steam shed side of the crossing you see this vast array of sidings in front of you. The array consists of 2 sidings on the leftmost side and 2 sets of through roads that loop onto each other. That's the centre 2 and the rightmost 2 tracks. Reaching the southern end, this is the centre 2 set of tracks coming together, and the shunter is getting ready to go into the steam sheds. Looking back we can see the 2 brake vans in the sidings, and in the foreground the 4 main through tracks. And panning back towards the Metrolink you'll be able to see as these 4 tracks loop into one another. At this point you can see that the 2 middle tracks have looped together, ready to go back into the steam sheds, and the bottom 2 tracks, which were the 2 rightmost tracks, loop back together as though they can go back onto the Metrolink. Indeed, as we look right down here, this is the southernmost end of the line. You have been watching the route knowledge training film for the East Lancashire Railway, filmed and edited by Atlantic Video Views.